is absolutely unique about Piemonte? I think there are three things. The first has to be that, without question, it is a land in which there is great tradition.
Mm.
So it's a land in which there is great tradition. And that is a tradition, frankly, of which Piemonte should be and are very proud. They come from a long history and a long culture of winemaking. This is not just a fashionable moment. This is not planting something up 25 years ago because they see a market opportunity. This has been a fundamental part of their life and their lifestyle for, well, as long as anybody can remember. It's also something where I have rarely visited a wine region where the wines and the style of wine which is being produced complements so remarkably the ingredients, the food, the recipes that they have created. Don't misunderstand me. I mean, every great winemaking area will have its particular range of recipes. It'll have its particular cookbook. But there is something just extraordinary about an area where you are creating red wines of such stature, and at the same time you are unearthing truffle, you are picking porcini mushrooms, you are dealing with the most exquisite meats with the Fasone variety, you're dealing with rabbit, with veal, with this whole host of product which just seemingly sits there seeking a wine of the nature and the profile of Barbera so that you get the absolute most out of it. The third one, I think, is the uniqueness of the geology and the geomorphology of the landscape. I can only remember one parallel, and maybe it's not a very good parallel, and there will be others with far greater experience than me who will have, I'm sure, a far more qualified view. But I can recall the first visits that I ever made to the vineyards of Chile, and particularly in the area of Santiago de Chile. And this was before the days of massive pollution in Santiago. It was before Santiago had sprawled to an extent that you seem to have to travel miles now to get anywhere. But those were the days when you had producers like Cuisine Macul, who were virtually in the city center, glorious little vineyards. And the lasting impact, the lasting experience was that you could sit in the vineyard and overlooking you were the mountains of the Andes. And the Andes would be backdropped at the appropriate time of year with snow-capped peaks. And then you had, of course, the warmth and the heat of the sun. You had the depth of green around you and flourishing vineyards. But you had this incredibly invigorating, cool air coming over, almost like this natural air conditioning unit, which was air that was flowing over the Andes and coming down into Santiago. An experience I think that anybody who's had will never forget. I think you've got to look at that sort of parallel in Piemonte. You know, Tuscany, very beautiful, very manicured, I have to say, but that's a personal preference. But they have nothing like the impact of the Alps that we have here. And one of the greatest joys I have, after looking at the vineyards and seeing how much we've had in terms of growth in the last 24 hours, is to look out in the other direction from our house and look at snow-capped mountains at this time of year, which are overlooking Torino and looking over the valleys of Piemonte. And you can sense, you know, when you come out in the morning before the sun is actually warm, the air is cool, it's chilled. You know that the grapes overnight have had this cooler environment in which to luxuriate for a few hours. And then when the sun comes and the heat is there, yeah, you can feel it on your face, you can feel the heat on your body, and yet you're still breathing air, which invigorates. Now, if it can invigorate us, would it be completely insane to suggest that it also invigorates the fruit? I don't know. Ponder on that one. But what I do find is that overall impact, that unique collection of conditions, at least of the ones I've experienced, and there may well be other areas of the world that people will say, yeah, but what about Friuli, or what about Trentino, or whatever it happens to be. I'm sure they're right, but for me, this is something that really sets Piemonte apart and makes it such an exciting area in which to be making wine today.